Alright, so now let's see what is Burp Suite. Yeah, so first of all, let me point your attention at the fact that this is, by all accounts, the most effective and useful thing you can invest into in your application security career. So every time you do something that relates to web applications or web services, that's the best approach you can take ever. Yeah, so this is not just my opinion. This is confirmed by many professionals I know and work with. Uh, and the price is relatively small, so for around 10% of what you pay for Acunetics, you get the same functionality, and in addition a lot of other things, and the ability to extend the functionality of your tool uh, in an unlimited fashion. Yeah, so first of all, there are tools. Okay, it's a suite, so there are different tools. You can add more in extender, but most importantly, we have these tools here: the proxy, the spider, the scanner, intruder, and so on. And we have the browser that is basically going through those tools. Yeah, so we have to configure the browser to use that as a proxy. By default, it's running on loopback port 8080. Yeah, so here we can configure that. We can add multiple interfaces, or we can run on all of them. And there is this intercept tab in proxy. Okay, so starting from proxy, I can say that by default it's turned on. So every time you do something here, it's stopped. Yeah, the request is stopped. You can configure that behavior, but by default it stops and waits for your decision. So we can forward that manually, or we can turn off intercept altogether, or we can just say, okay, go to this specific changed URL, and we forward that, and of course the server tells us, come on, the page is not found, do something differently. Yeah, so for now let's turn it off and see what happens here. Here we have a lot of different requests, all shown here. Some of them are not related to the web application we actively browse, because there is something going on in the background, of course, all the time. So the first tip is to sort everything here by the request number, but descending order. Okay. The second thing is limit your scope. Okay, and when we come to scope, yeah, of what's showing here in this Burp Suite application, we configure that in this target tab. Yeah, so we have started from the second one. Now let's go to the first one. So here we have a lot of different things. Yeah, these black ones, yeah, we have already visited, and they are confirmed as being existing. Okay, and everything else that is gray is basically just parsed from the traffic we put in the Burp Suite. Okay, so it's presumably there, but we are not sure yet. And you see that something is HTTP and something is HTTPS, and this is a really strong point in using Burp Suite, right? So as I already shown in the chapter dedicated to network presence, sniffing, and intercepting traffic, it's really cool to have Burp Suite every time you have to unwrap SSL sessions and do something with the raw traffic. Okay, so let's add it to the scope. Yeah, so context menu is basically everywhere in Burp Suite. You can see it everywhere, literally, and it's the context is always different. And here in the targets pane, we just add that to scope. Yeah, so scope has changed. Every time something is changed, we see these highlights everywhere. And the scope in Burp Suite, of course, is just a regular expression. Yeah, so we specify protocol, we specify host and IP range, and then the port, and then everything that follows. We can use standard regex notion to configure that. So here, let's use the filter, right? So here we have that filter that can show us only in scope items, okay? Which is kind of cool. Now we have only what we really need. Everything else will be skipped. The same trick works in proxy. let's remove everything else and see that gstatic request has disappeared, which is kind of cool. So let's do something useful now. So of course we can imitate the same thing we did to this login window to bypass authentication, right? So let's put admin and password here. Password is incorrect, that's cool. Let's go to target and see where it is. Okay, so this is our request, yeah, in original form. Okay, the same thing is going on here, right? So it's the same request basically, but here it's structured in a tree form, and here we just see the list as a proxy log. Okay, so we haven't intercepted it. I mean, we haven't changed that while intercepting, but we can use context menu and send it to repeater first. Okay, so repeater has it now, and we can do those requests deliberately now, right? Seeing what happens to the response. Okay, so I don't know, we can just see HTML or render the result already. Okay, just to be sure that the error is still there and we haven't picked the right password. And from here, of course, we can start making some changes. Let's send a quote. Oh, let's see error message. Let's send another quote. Okay, error message disappeared. This is a sign of our web page vulnerability to SQL injection, of course. Yeah, so first, well, while doing that manually, we did that with admin field with username, and now let's do something with password field. So let's type that here. Plus or plus 1 equals 1. Okay, so basically the same payload. Plus, of course, is the notion of a space. Yeah, URL friendly space notion. So let's go, and what happens? Nice, we have successfully authenticated, which is kind of cool, right? Did we? Let's put the same payload in the page. So here we have the redirection to this location with the successful authentication pop-up, right? There is no error there anymore. And we can basically try to... no, we won't do that right now. So we can request that in browser, in original session. We just copy that and put in the browser, and Burp Suite imitates everything else for us. Okay, we have successfully logged in as administrator, which is kind of cool, you know. So maybe that was a little bit too fast, but you can repeat that with Burp Suite at home. And for all I've just shown, commercial version doesn't have anything beyond the free version functionality. So even without buying that, you will be able to circumvent authentication. However, for some automated things like scanner, for example, it's available only in a commercial version, and everything else is pretty much limited by the number of threads you can generate to a specific web server. Okay, so enough said about repeater and SQL injection. So here you can just tweak the requests manually and see what happens in response. Yeah, that's for manual fuzzing, that's a really cool kind of feature, right? Now, oh, you can follow redirection here. You always learn something new. I didn't know that you can just follow redirection from right from the repeater. Yeah. So now, intruder. Yeah, so what does intruder do? Repeater repeats everything manually. Intruder basically allows you to configure automated that same process, but the mangling of parameters, yeah, the mangling of request contents will be done automatically, and everything will be sent to the server automatically. You will just see the results in a nice list. Let's use that for something useful. Okay, so for that, for example, let's find some authentication bypass by using password guessing. Okay, so oh, come on, uh, we have this brute force task. Yeah, so first let's log out, and we will actually need some hints here. Yeah, so what is the actual password? Where can we find it? Oh, we're left alone here. So okay, no problem, let's put admin here. Let's put password here, and let's catch that request in the proxy. Yeah, and let's now send it not to repeater but to intruder. So intruder has opened a new tab for us, and here in those four sub tabs we can configure the intrusion attack. Okay, so here we just review the request we received, and we can highlight the field, the portion of text that will be mangled, what will be substituted by something we configure later, right? So we add this changing field, go to payloads. These are things that will be put there, and we can add from some lists already available in Burp Suite, or we can upload them manually, right, from here. So let's first start this password list from Burp Suite. And here in options, yeah, you can configure number of threads, retry intervals, and so on. But let's just start it right away. So as you see, everything goes quite fast thanks to the commercial license. And here we see the payloads. Yeah, the base request, of course, is unchanged. Yeah, and it's an error, of course. We know that error is of this length, and it's of status 200. And as we saw in the SQL injection example, the successful logon results in status 302. That's the redirect to some functionality that only properly authenticated users get. Okay, so here we can see that yeah, it's going down, generates a lot of output, but we can sort by length, for example, and we see that at some point the length is different. What does it mean? What the response was? It's still an error message, but why? Because we have the quote here. Always have quotes in your passwords. That extends your user experience very much. It makes life beautiful. So no other changes in length, unfortunately. So we didn't guess the right password. Brute force didn't work, but that's only because we had only this many 3,424 payloads. Okay, if we extend the payload list by removing everything and loading something from seclist's password collection. For example, let's add, let's start from RockU, why not? Okay, so full RockU list is here. And I'm not sure whether my memory will allow Burp Suite to load everything from RockU. but let's try. Hopefully it won't crash. Yeah, it wasn't a good idea apparently, and the bad thing is that we cannot stop that. Yeah, so let it try to load everything. In the meanwhile, let me show that sec lists collection. Okay, so there is this repository of different security related lists, and it goes like this. So it's a GitHub repository. You can check out and update it all the time, yeah, before you use it. So there are different fuzzing strings, different indicators of compromise, different discovery lists. Like, for example, you have DNS names, right? Really large list of top blocked or like provided by Fierce Tool or ReconNG or just Alexa top 1 million subdomains of known websites and so on. So everything is quite comprehensive here. You can use that and just to give you an idea, this sorted list of domain names is around 100,000. Okay, so it's quite large. And of course there are passwords. Passwords are really numerous, yeah, so they are all the same, but they are in different leaks, you know. So starting from Rocky, you can see that, yeah, that's pretty much repeating itself in all the leaks, unfortunately. Okay, so what's going on in the burp window? It's still loading. Yeah, that was my mistake. I shouldn't do that. It takes some time. So here it is. It's 14,300,000. You know, so it's quite some passwords. So let's from here, I don't know, let's make number of threads 10. Hope my virtual machine will not die under that pressure. And yeah, let's start attack. Oh, I hope it will be much faster. Okay, going back to our security list. So here you can just sort everything by size and have an idea about what's the most comprehensive list. And everything else going down and having txt extension will be less and less comprehensive leaks, but you know, that's all more or less verified, and you always can Google or just go to Skull Security, just Google that and download more lists and put them into this repository. But again, that's updated quite regularly, you know. It even has Ashley Madison already, so it's more or less up to date all the time. So what's going on here? We have something started and we want to see what happens in the real time, or we don't. So if we sort it this way, we will see all those attempts, but what's interesting to us is the difference in status, of course, right? Or in size. So the base response was of this size. Successful login will definitely be of another size. Unfortunately, we see that we haven't guessed the password correctly yet. But with this level of perseverance as using RockU against the web application. I think at some point of time we will successfully guess that. So without Googling and reading documentation, I encourage you to use some really comprehensive list of passwords to brute force this admin password. Yeah, so before extracting NoWasp accounts database, try to do that. Or you can just see the output of SQL map in the previous video. Okay, this is just to show you how to use that. Let's stop it for now. You can pause it and keep it on the background until you do some other manual things, but let's now see that, yeah, intruder is done for us. Play with different attack types. Yeah, you can do that in cluster bomb manner, so when both admin and password are changed, yeah, sniper just does that for one particular payload. When you add for example, cluster bomb attack method, you will see that come on, the number of payloads shall change. Oh, not in cluster bomb, I think in pitchfork. No, that's funny. Some of them should you have to you have to highlight both of them. Okay, so let's edit. Let's add another insertion point, and of course the payload. There will be two payloads now, and if you add something, the overall number of attack combinations will be really large. Once you start, you will see that those things are multiplied as prospective number of combinations to try against a specific web application. Okay, this is very interesting, but let's go see what Spider is. So Spider is paused now, right? Because it's just configured here, it's not started from here. But you can start it from any point in your web application. Yeah, here in sitemap, we can just in context menu spider this host. Okay, so we will be asked for filling forms as they pop up. Yeah, but now let's just ignore and see what's going on the target specification pane. Of course, everything is visited now, or it's going to be. robots.txt is requested, and all this information is dynamically fed back to the spidering machine, right? Just to try all those locations restricted for spidering, because yeah, we are doing what bad guys would normally do. We are not imitating Google search spider bots. Yeah, we just simulating a real world attack, and spider status just shows you what's going on, right? So it's already run. All the requests made are counted here, and this is the amount of traffic sent and received. Okay, you can browse through options on your free time. So as you see, something is still just referred from somewhere, but not actively visited by the spider. This is Mutilidae, and it's in the root of the host because it's like the base directory that is recommended for installations. Sometimes it's just hard-coded. Maybe that's what happened this time. Okay, but maybe in some documentation article. But everything else, you see, it's visited. It's okay. We can see the responses. We can see the requests, and most importantly, we can now, using this spider output, yeah, so this is what it changed in our project, we can actively scan that, you know. So this is tricky. So here you will have to either include something static or not, and then you will have to confirm that everything here should be really scanned, and then you basically cannot do anything. You just can observe or stop it at any point. If you see that your server starts lagging or I don't know, totally doesn't respond. So here you see some tests are run against different URLs, and you can see that the progress changes and requests are made, and if errors pop up, this is a bad thing. You have to at least pause the scan and see what's the reason for that. And here you have already some issues popping up. You can double click here and already read through the description of issues. Okay, I hope it won't break now, and we will see how the target specification changes. You see, everything is summed up here in the issues, and we already have 5 points of cross-site scripting, 5 insertion points of possible cross-site scripting, and I think that this sign means that it's already confirmed, right? So this is still potential, but here we already have confirmed that, yeah, alert 1 was fed back to the scanner. Let's render that. Maybe we even will see the pop-up message. No, we won't, but that's not a big deal. We can just search for it here. Yeah, so most probably it was reflected back to the browser, to the virtual browser of Burp Suite Scanner. Okay, so this is what's going on when you scan things. Yeah, this is what happens. It takes some time. Normally it's not that fast because there is a lot of network latency between you and the client. So overall we can say that in the end we will have more or less comprehensive automated scanning report. But yeah, of course I do not encourage you to use scanner right away. That's the right thing to do when you have already manually identified all possible vulnerabilities. And of course think about first of all that scanning has issues. Yeah, so the load on the web server is tremendous. Please limit that in scanning configurations, limit the number of threads, see how the web server responds, and then change that. Rerun the tests, rerun the scans if required, but be careful all the time. And one more thing, there is this just for you to like fully embrace the level. Oh yeah, SQL injection is found. Where? Somewhere. Okay, so yeah, it found it in URL. Okay, so remember that this is a really sophisticated tool. The full capacity of Burp Suite is such that it uses this thing, Burp Suite Collaborator. This is just like a standalone service it uses in order to get the echo that the scanner actions could cause on the server side. Yeah, so you can, for example, observe that your input, yeah, you make by Burp Suite Scanner generates some traffic originating from your web server you test, yeah, to some other location that Burp Suite Collaborator is. So once I have found a really nasty data leakage to a Slack channel, yeah, that access to that channel wasn't controlled properly, and that was used by some DevOps team maybe for just alerting about some things happening on the production database, and that was really not very comfortable for the guy who thought that it cannot be identified from the outside. So I did that, not I, but Burp Suite did that for me, you know, so it was a complete surprise for me. And it even wasn't a penetration test yet, it was just like a pre-production scanning. So yeah, as you can see, the password is vulnerable already. I think that username, it will find username too at some point. Yeah, username is vulnerable too. And the cookie is, so everything that we have identified manually is already found, and of course we will work over those XSS vulnerabilities when we walk through XSS related tools in the next video. So let's skip sequencer. Yeah, so it's like the other tool for changing the traffic, intervening into the traffic and seeing what happens and then exploiting that effectively. The decoder might be interesting just because it can help you make transitions from different encodings. You can encode that as URL, for example. Yeah, when you want to avoid the application firewall or just make your input more tolerable by the web server. You can of course encode decode base 46 in ASCII hex and octal notions and hexadecimal notions and binary even, and even gzip here. So it can be done in a cascading manner. So let's encode that as HTML and then decode that as HTML and then decode that as URL, and we will have the same string we had in the beginning. So that's really useful not to leave the Burp Suite session and be able to do all these transformations on the fly. What is comparer? It's quite cool when you have different requests, yeah, causing different responses, and you just send them to comparer, and it shows you, it highlights you the difference. Okay, so there are huge requests and huge responses, for example, and you just want to see what changed, yeah, with that increment or with that change of parameter. So you just take two of them. Okay, let's just take them from repeater. Yeah, so we have this. Oh, we have to change that somehow. No? Okay, let's take another one. Let's send this to repeater and then send this to repeater too. Okay, to generate a new tab. So let's show what happens when there is a user like that, and then another tab. Let's show that what happens when there is no such user. Okay, so let's then send the first output to comparer and then send the second output to comparer. And now in comparer we will see these two things. Yeah, so this is the pair of responses, and this is it too. Yeah, so that's the same pair in each case, but here you see highlighted are the first one and the second one. So let's compare by words. Comparison is building, a new GUI is issued, and we see that time has changed apparently, right? So there is some time between the requests and responses, and basically that's it. Okay, so let's put it in hex. I don't know, that's still time. So the response is most probably static and no changes. Oh no, there is a change. What is it? Yeah, so that's some flag, I guess, right? So you see, it's quite useful. Maybe not on this specific example, but you see that something has changed, and every time you see that changes are caused by your actions, that is of importance, of course. So here the flag was 1 and here it became 0. Okay, maybe that somehow indicates the validity of credentials you provide, the login name, I mean. Okay, so this is about comparer. Extender, of course, allows you to install and then enable load into the environment different extensions that are available in the store, or you can do that. You can install them separately in a standalone mode, and there is some set of options for that. You can arrange your tasks in different projects. Be warned that project files, the files that are generated by this project activity are really large because they contain all the traffic that you have generated. Not in a scan, but manually or while intercepting the application behavior. And basically that's it. Or it just shows you that something went wrong, and user options are for the environment. You can make some changes to proxy configuration, enable SOX proxy, do some SSL configuration, and so on. So as we speak, the scanner continues its hard work, and we are not even in the middle of it. Okay, so I will continue scanning, and will show you how to generate nice and neat reports from Burp Suite scans in the next video, when we will do some XSS hunting. Okay, so see you there.